we come to the effects on African Americans.
Yeah.
Yo, the effects on African Americans, they be heavy. Yo. They be heavy because they had to go through
Live through it.
they had to live through the shit. Like they had to live through the thing. So looking at them now, bruv. Well, let's just go. So the first thing first of all is the wealth gap. The wealth gap between like the racial wealth gap between the black people and the white people. It's a very huge gap.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, a video that I watched, the Dr. Claude Anderson video, he really made an interesting point that we came into US as slaves. Sorry, they came into US as slaves. And as slaves, we weren't entitled to have land. And back then, land was like also very important, an important part of having wealth. So it's like when US started becoming US, these different countries were coming into US. Let's say the Italians will come and like, okay, we are giving you this portion of land. Maybe the
Asians will come,
maybe we'll give you this portion of land. But for as all that sharing was going on, we were slaves and they were slaves and they weren't getting they weren't getting anything at all. So moving out of slavery, they weren't given anything. So let's say they wrote the legislation that all men are created equal. They created that whole legislation. But when they came out, you didn't give them that, or maybe, okay, now that you are free from slavery, we know that your economic status is very poor. You have no money. So take maybe this portion of land, this portion of capital, and start something for yourselves. They didn't have that. They just came into like, okay, you guys are free now.
Yeah.
Just go in.
You lift them up to hustle.
Yeah. So they weren't giving any. They had zero to start with in the US, and you can imagine that, like, and the people, their labor and the labor aspect. You are leaving them with nothing. The only thing they have is their manpower, and with their manpower too, you took it away. In the Constitution, the loophole in the Constitution, you took it away too. So. What do you think about
and I think right after they were given their freedom, I felt like the whites had this feeling that, okay, we've really used them, that when we are to leave them now, they will not be able to work as they used to before. That sort of thing. Despite the loophole, those who were free, who had no land, and then they had to fend for themselves, try to acquire properties and assets. In my own opinion, I felt, okay, they did not really give up. Like they felt, as though we are all equal, we are all human beings, But I felt they had this feeling they've utilized us, and then utility is full now.
Yeah,
so we are of nothing to them. They've gotten all that they needed. So in terms of the inequality gap, that took us to the far end. Yeah,
they didn't give a shit. Yeah, so and that you were going to
and I also think that the effect they as African Americans are also facing is the fact that, you see, right after the whole legislation thing, there was this drug, epidemic going on, and more emphasis were laid on the blacks, that they were the main cause of this whole drug epidemic. So I think it got imprinted on our brain that as a young child growing up, I mean, if you're an African American, right, your default job was to do drugs. Your default job as an African American male was to do drugs.
Yeah, doing drugs.
And this also brought a whole level of insecurity, because they had nothing as, okay, they had communities, but they did not have, should I say, a town. We had no town of our own. We had no mayor, no governor, nothing. We were just living in communities. So I felt this whole, it rose our level of insecurity. I mean, African American level of insecurity. Wherever they see cops, whether you are moving out with a clear conscience or not, you're scared. You're scared as hell.
You're scared as hell. Yeah, that's a very good point. I think it's a point on its own self, away from the wealth gap self. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So with the wealth aspect, and you have you look at the status of employment in the US, and you can clearly see that there's a gap in the fact that a white person, and it's been clearly documented by a lot of statisticians, who have made reports where they found that white people are more likely to be employed
than blacks,
black people, and even black names. If an employer, if let's say you take your application, and the employer sees the name, let's say a name like Tishon. Tishon is clearly a black name.
I get you.
And if the employer sees another name like maybe Greg, no, give me a white name, like a very white name.
Austin.
Like, yeah, you see a name like Austin. Austin sounds very white.
White.
So they see Tayshawn, they see Austin, like Austin will be a black person, so let's not employ him.
No, Tayshawn
will be a black person, so let's not employ him. Like little things like that really like had an effect on their employment status. And even you remember a lot of black people were in prison, were incarcerated. Even we forgot to mention this point in the historical podcast. The 94 crime bill was made by Bill Clinton, where like it was because of the whole drug epidemic. But because of that bill, that specific bill, a lot of black males
were incarcerated.
Like a lot.
Oh yeah, I think we did make mention of it.
So when you are in prison and you come out of prison, you have the fact that you were in prison on
you're an ex-convict.
You're an ex-con on your record. So as an ex-convict, you are less likely to get a job,
any form of employment.
So you think about it, and you think about the fact that a lot of black people were in prison, and when they come out, they have no work to do. And that adds to the unemployment topic, which even adds to the wealth topic, because if you're not employed, you're not making
how
money.
are you going to generate money?
Wealth. So you have anything on them?
And even aside from the whole employment factor too, blacks nowadays, or I'll say the world in general, we're moving from the whole employment era to this entrepreneurial era, whereby everyone is trying to make something, with this whole advent of the internet. And I feel if you're a black sorting out for investment, and you have another white person also up for the same level of investment you're going for, this small level of racism, they are going to choose the white over the black, right? So it's somehow blacks find it tedious gaining investment out there.
It's a good point. Loans and stuff. They said white people are more likely to get loans. And, Jesus Christ,
it's really a mess.
It's a mess.
And I also, despite the fact that people, the whole constitution now is trying to better up the notion that racism is a bad thing and we should stop doing it, and they are trying to make new laws to protect the African descendants out there. I also think the Africans themselves have this level of interpersonal racism that goes on. I don't know if you understand me.
So anytime I watch a lot of these black interviews, a couple of them I've heard it's like they don't trust themselves. It's like if let's say you had a shop as a black person, you had a shop, another black person feels like the service you might have in your shop won't be better than a white person, so I won't.
You won't patronize.
I won't patronize your shop.
Exactly.
But I would rather move. Even this dude, the Dr. Claude Anderson guy, he said a dude wanted to buy a bag of ice cubes, and in his community he had like a supermarket owned by a black person where they sell ice cubes, but he decided to leave from his community and go to a whole different community.
That's real personal,
to buy ice cubes. Come on.
So I think that whole situation runs down even to us.
I think with them there's sort of a distrust amongst them. I don't think they are fully united as we might think
as a race.
But I think they are probably getting there, but they are not actually there yet. When they actually get there and are very united, like big things will happen.
Exactly,
for them. Think about even the protests that they had with George Floyd. Look at all of that.
That was mad.
It was really hard. Like because of that, they had bills which were put in place.
And then
because of
more
them.
blacks were actually more blacks were employed into the whole law.
The legislation.
The legislation. More blacks were now employed.
So if they really come together to fight a lot of these things, like bro. Like
But
they'll
see,
be really better off.
Everyone is dormant until something happens.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. That's true. It takes, okay, yeah, it's true. It takes something very, I don't know,
Nasty.
something very, nasty to happen before everybody comes together. But when everything is quiet, it's really difficult for people to come together, Bob. So another point would be like the long-lasting mental trauma on them. And if you are an American child, you were born into America, you don't know anything about racism. You don't know what racism is.
Yeah.
So once you begin to experience it, you begin to know what racism is. And you have racism happening to you. That whole trauma, or even the trauma of you knowing that your ancestors who came to America first were
enslaved.
That whole trauma in your head, you get confused. You're like, what's going on? Can I trust these white people? Like, am I safe out here? That whole trauma in your head, it sort of doesn't give you clarity. It sort of makes you confused in the world. You don't know what to do, and you know, people feel alone. And you can even link that to, you know, mental health issues and all. So.
But I same on that point. I think that's, to me, that's on the average, right? With the average black person, with the average black American, that's where this whole mental trauma. Taking a look at those well-to-do African Americans out there, I don't think they face this kind of traumatic issues. I don't know if you get me, but take someone like Will Smith, dude. Do you think he actually?
I think for Will Smith, you could make an argument that
someone popping up. No one is
I think with Will Smith, you can make an argument that in his earlier stage, before he had money, you could probably make an argument that maybe when he wasn't as successful, he was going through those sort of stuff. And so that adds to the point of the wealth issue. If you have money, if you have wealth, it's very difficult for someone to be racially insensitive to you if you have money.
Yes.
I have money, so what do you think I can? What you can do?
Yeah.
So I think, per your point, if blacks want to
actually unite and cause changes,
they have to go towards fighting for wealth,
better finance,
acquiring money, rather than trying to integrate things. Or like, yo, please acknowledge me.
Cause even with people from the same race, with this whole level of, you know, wealth, should I say inequality, right? Still, people of the same race look down upon one another if the other is not as wealthy as they are. Yeah. So I do get your point. That's very good.
Yeah. So long-lasting mental trauma. Can you? I don't know whether it's too far-fetched, but can you link it to the intake of drugs? Wait, no. Can you take it? Can you equate this to? There's this thing where black people don't like talking about mental issues. Have you realized this trend where anytime people are talking about mental health issues, black people are silent? They don't want to talk about it. I know for a fact that there's this man called Charlemagne the God. He's a very huge mental health advocate. And one thing he always says when he's interviewing like black people is, black people don't like talking about their mental health issues, and black people do go through a lot of things, but they fail to talk about it. They fail to go to therapy to talk about their issues and all. And I don't know, I feel like therapy is very important, but if you be able to come to terms with
who you are,
with who you really are,
and try and find ways of bettering yourself.
You need some sort of guidance and therapy, because you can't do everything on your own.
Exactly.
But so I don't know, they can really help themselves with the whole
I seem to get your point. But we have this facade. We want to show the world that everything is okay, even though deep down we are all suffering. Right? But just because we're blacks and we don't want to feel as though we are weak, so then we just
like you're keeping the strong front, like
shoulders high,
like
and then you just move
like
about.
I'm good, like you
That sort
good,
of
I'm
thing.
good, you good, I'm good. Like I can see you clearly crying. Are you sure you're good? Yeah, like
even down here in Africa, the whole humanitarian and wellness centers, they don't really work, because you barely find, out of 10 people, you only get one person who move into the psychological.
Yeah, think of even the number of people doing psychology.
It's bad. It's bad.
Yeah.
And let alone doing studying psychology and getting employment. You understand, right?
Yeah. So, and one final point before we end this is this thing where Dr. Claude Anderson he mentioned the fact that when you look at black people, most of the money black people make is from doing sweat work, like sports, singing, like everything is acquired from sweat, where other races are doing, being
white collar jobs,
businessmen. Most of us are doing the black Americans acquire money through sweat. And that was one point where he was advocating for people to try to make money through entrepreneurship. So that was his whole point, entrepreneurship, wealth creation.
And I think that's
investment.
That's the whole sweat work thing. I think it's still an effect from the slavery.
From slavery,
yes.
You can link it to slavery.
Exactly,
because in slavery we're sweating.
Even when they were free, they had no properties, no assets, so they still have to engage in these sweat works to go by their day. So
yep.
Oh God.
Yeah. So I think we've exhausted all the points.
Those are the points we could come up with. So if you've got more, slide it down there.
So that's it for this part on the effects of African Americans. I don't know how long this is, but if it's very long, maybe we'll cut it.
Yeah, we can cut it in
and put maybe effects of Africans
separate,
effects of Black Americans separate too. But so maybe we'll probably do that, and we really hope that some points we made here maybe it really got to you and you understood it.
It made sense.
It made sense to you, and if maybe something didn't make sense, or you don't agree, or
you can always question.
You can put it in the comments below. You can ask a question. You can, just comment. Do something. Let us know that.
Exactly.
Maybe
let us know you are there. Let us know you are actually following us. Let us know you.
The world is all about opinion.
Exactly.
So you share different opinions, then before you can come to one solid conclusion.
Exactly.
So don't forget, like, comment, share,
and subscribe.
And
that ring, but that bell button.
The notification. Notification bell. So we'll catch you guys on the next one-ish, which we are sort of going to record right now,
I guess.